Hey guys, Shanti Phillips here in my video talking about my picks for the best and worst films of 2017. Now, of course, though, these are just my picks for the best and worst films, and all these movies, though, I'd say, you still should see, even the worst ones, to give your opinion, just to see if you don't like them, because like I said, these are just my opinions and my picks for best and worst. And the way I always do this is, I do best movies, and then a list of movies that are worth watching, which are ones that I feel like just a little bit below the best, but ones I still feel like you guys should definitely go out and still see. And then I do worst, and then I do best worst movies, and those are ones that are like kind of like so bad it's so it's good movies, kind of like a thing like Troll 2 and that kind of movie where the movie's really bad, but there's like a fun aspect about it where you like have a good time watching it just because it's so bad. And of course, too, when I do these lists, I always end up forgetting certain movies, but I've tried my best to go through and pick and like think about like the ones that I really did like and the ones that I really didn't like, and but of course, like I said, I usually end up missing something, and sometimes I miss something really big. And when I do these lists too, I do this based on the release dates, if they released in the U.S., this year, because sometimes some of these movies released in other countries like a year before, and sometimes even a little bit earlier than that, like sometimes even almost 2 years before. So it just depends. But all these ones released, in 2017 in the U.S. Hopefully, I didn't mistake any ones, but I really try to be careful this time for the U.S. release dates. Now, I'm just going to start now with the best movies, and I'm looking down at this paper. So if you see me looking down, that's why. The first one that I picked was the movie starring Vince Vaughn, Brawl in Cell Block 99. That movie was probably one of the coolest prison movies I've ever seen in a long time. It was such a throwback to the early like Linda Blair vibe kind of movies, like from the 70s and 80s. Those kind of like really crazy exploitation, insane type movies. Like the violence levels were crazy. They were done kind of in like a comedic sort of over the top way, and it was also such a different role for Vince Vaughn because he was playing this really crazy, insane guy, and he like bulked up for it. And I don't know, that was one. Loved that movie so much. The next one I picked was Split, and that movie, it's M. Night Shyamalan's latest film, and he's, going to be doing a new, follow-up to Split called Glass, which I can't wait to see that. And, that was a movie, though, I've always actually really liked M. Night Shyamalan's movies. Like, some of the ones, though, like Last Airbender and Lady in the Water, and some of those ones I didn't love that much. The Happening, that was probably my least favorite one of his films, because that movie kind of was like sort of a, so bad it's good kind of movie. But Split, though, really did, to me, work, and was probably like his, best movie in a long time. But I really did like, The Visit as well. The next one I picked, and this movie kind of had some mixed opinions. Some people really disliked this film, but I loved it because it felt like an old school like Hammer horror vibe film, and it had that real like 70s kind of feel to the movie, and this like the clinical aspect of everything and the weirdness to it I really liked. And also it was kind of cool too that it was like a big studio release, and it was as strange as it was. There's a movie starring Dane DeHaan, which was Cure for Wellness. Like I said, a lot of people didn't like that movie, and it wasn't like their kind of vibe film, but to me there was something so cool about that movie, so weird that was going on. Maya Goth was really good in the movie as well, but that one I feel like you guys definitely should give that one a chance because I really love that one. The next one that I picked was Get Out, and that movie, has got some Academy Award buzz going on, and I know it's got nominated for Golden Globes. I'm pretty sure it's going to get some Academy Award nominations as well, but really, really well-made movie. It was one of those movies, too, that I feel like kind of came out of nowhere. People were kind of, like, when it originally had the trailers coming out, people were thinking, like, that this could kind of be, like, a real silly movie, and didn't expect, I don't think anyone expected that it was going to do as well as it did, and the movie was actually such a well-made film, and, such an interesting subject about the whole thing. I don't know, I really got into that movie, and I really can't wait to see what the director does next. He's best known for, being in, comedies and doing, like, Key and Peele and stuff, so it's definitely a very different type of thing for him to do. The next one I picked was a superhero movie, but I feel like I picked two superhero movies in this list, and I feel like, this is one of those superhero movies where even if you don't like superhero movies, you're probably going to like this movie and the other one I picked later in the list, but this one is Logan. In that movie, and I had not seen all the X-Men movies, I had not seen all the Wolverine films, so there was a lot of ones I missed, but I feel like even if you didn't, you still would pick up on this movie, and you'd still pick up that this was a really well-made superhero film, even though it was like sort of not a superhero film at the same time, and I really loved that it went for a very gritty, dark kind of feel to it, and it went with an R rating, because of like things with like Deadpool and stuff. There's been a lot more R-rated superhero movies lately. The next one I picked is a movie that I feel like not a lot of people have seen, and not a lot of people have even heard of. Kind of came out of nowhere. It was a movie starring Guy Pearce called Brimstone, which is an amazing movie that takes place over a period of like, I think it's like 20 years or so, and it's like it's about Dakota Fanning's character and this terrible stuff that she's been through, and it's like a sort of a Western film, but kind of with the feel of like Ravenous kind of mixed into it, and a very dark film, like, but absolutely amazing. All these ones too, check out the trailers for this one. Brimstone especially, that movie, like I said, came out of nowhere. I don't think anyone knew at all from the cover what it was, because it made it look like it was just like a real straightforward Western movie when it was totally not. It was kind of a Western movie where, you know, set in the West setting, but if you don't like Western movies, you'd still love this one. The next one I picked is a movie starring Robert Pattinson called Lost City of Z, and there's another movie, you know, I think Gold kind of had a similar feel to me, like a little bit. There's another thing, too, that I think came out, the Jungle, starring Daniel Radcliffe, but I like this one way better, Lost City of Z, because those ones sort of had similar, you know, settings and feels to them, but Lost City of Z was them trying to go on this father and son going on this journey to try and discover this part in the Amazon rainforest where they're kind of working on the maps in this area that they believe there was like, a city of gold and stuff, but really well-made, kind of old school action, kind of sort of Indiana Jones kind of feel to it a little bit. And the next one here is the second superhero movie that I picked, and that was Wonder Woman. And I know a lot of people really like that movie. That's another one too where I feel like, especially with that, even if you don't love superhero movies, you will like this one. And it also really set a huge high standard for superhero movies, because, like, you know, Justice League, you know, was not great. Because when you look at Wonder Woman, like, I really hope the sequel ends up being just as good, because that's another one that I felt like from the trailers originally, it kind of looked like it might be kind of hit or miss, and then it was like amazing how good it turned out. It was just like such a well-made film. The next one is another movie. It was a very indie movie that kind of came and went. I feel like a lot of people didn't see it. It's a little cheaper now on Amazon. It was very expensive when it first came out. It was like $30-something, but it was a movie called Patti Cakes, about this girl who dreams of being a rapper, and it's about her trying to form this rap group and trying to kind of become successful with her parents, you know, with her mother, who's a raging alcoholic and is kind of like making jokes at her and kind of acting like you're never going to succeed and stuff. And it was amazing, like the music they put together for the film. The woman who plays the grandmother, she's a great character actress who was, you know, in like when she was like younger in the movie called Neighbors, and she was in But I'm a Cheerleader as the woman who ran the camp. The next one here was Wind River, another one that kind of, you know, went a little bit under the radar, about a murder on a Native American reservation, and Jeremy Renner's character is trying to solve this murder, and kind of, because like the police there kind of are like letting these murders become unsolved, and it's like a true story about these things that happen on the Native American reservations. A very sad film, and it's sort of him trying to track down the case, and he isn't even really a cop. He just sort of works as like the fish and wildlife person who makes sure there's not any like dangerous animals around and stuff like that. The next one, this is my top favorite movie though. Absolutely love this movie, and it was the movie called Goodtime, with another film with Rob Patterson. I always say his name wrong, but it was about these two brothers, and they end up pulling off this bank job, robbing this bank, and they don't know what they're doing, and it gets all screwed up, and the one brother has special needs, he's learning disabled, and he ends up getting arrested, and the end Robert Pattinson's character runs away and gets away, but his brother gets arrested, and it's the whole movie is him trying to figure out how he's going to get his brother out of jail and come up with the bail money, and it's all like one crazy night of all these things he's trying to go through to try and get his brother out. Amazing music, and it's one of those movies too that's a super fast-paced, quick movie. There's never like a dead moment in the entire film, and it just like keeps going and going, and it's just like by the end of it you sort of feel like you're gonna break down almost, because it's just such an intense film. The next one I picked, and I know a lot of people like this one as well, was the It, which is the new version of It, which is, you know, much more true to the book, and it was very done in a very R-rated film. I know there's going to be the Blu-ray and 4K of that coming out, you know, next month, so definitely interested in that. I don't think that version is going to have the director's cut. I think that version might be coming out later down the line, but I thought that, you know, it was a really well-made new version of it, because it wasn't wouldn't really say it's a remake because it was the same story, but it was much more detailed oriented. It was only the first part of the series when they were kids. It didn't go back and forth like the original series did for TV when it was them as adults. But the next chapter is going to be all of them as adults, and I don't think it's going to have any stuff of them as kids in it. The next one I picked was Blade Runner 2049, and that movie kind of came and went. It was one of those movies where I think it sort of seemed like it was going to do really well, and then really kind of did not do amazing, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really well-made science fiction film, a really well-made sequel. I actually watched the original film like the night before just to kind of brush up on it, and I thought it really had the same vibe. Everything to it was very similar, and Ryan Gosling was really good in it. I don't know, I thought it was a really great movie, really great music. They gave it the same kind of feel. Some people say though it's a little slow, and the thing is though, the original film as well, it's a slow burn kind of science fiction, drama kind of film, so it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really like that one. And the next one I picked out was Better Watch Out. Now, I think that movie released in some other countries like a year or so back, but it only came out recently here. It was about this kid who was being babysitted by this girl that he likes, and his friend comes over, and it's pretty much about, like, they believe that there's somebody outside the house kind of, like, stalking and watching them and making prank phone calls and stuff. It's one of those films, though, that has, like, an amazing twist and kind of totally flips on its head, and it even has, like, a scene. They mimic a scene from a really classic, like, movies from the early 90s, which I love. Like a Christmas film. I don't want to talk too much about it and ruin it, but an amazing movie. Crazy, totally off the wall. Definitely check that one out if you guys have not seen Better Watch Out. This one, a movie that people really hated, and I really liked it because it was so peculiar, and it was a movie that the Coen brothers wrote years back and finally was made by George Clooney, directed it, Matt Damon stars in it, and it's called Suburbicon. And like I said, people really didn't like that movie, and after it was over, I couldn't understand why, because I kept thinking about the movie, and it was just this insanely strange story about Matt Damon's character, and like something that ends up happening to his wife in the beginning of the movie, and then like these people kind of coming after him and stuff. It's just a crazy movie. In one of those movies, I kind of went into it knowing nothing about it, but really was a cool film. The next one is a movie starring Colin Farrell, and it was about him playing this doctor, and it's called Killing of a Sacred Deer, and he kind of becomes friends with this kid who's like, I think he's like 17, 18, he's really into wanting to be a doctor as well, but this kid is like really stalkerish and very strange, and he does something to the to his family and like kind of like mind controls his family, and then like it's kind of what happens to the family from what he says to them, and it's just an insane, crazy movie. A24 produced the movie. They produced Goodtime as well. Really love the stuff they released, but a hard to explain movie, but a really well made, twisted film. The next one was Three Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, and that was a really great ensemble piece about the one woman's daughter who ended up getting murdered, and she puts these signs up around the town, right by her neighborhood, these 3 billboards that, says, kind of calling out the police officers for like not doing a good job and not solving the murders and stuff. And it's kind of about them trying to do anything they can to get these signs taken down. And it's a character piece, and all the kind of characters have all these sets of problems that are going on. Woody Harrelson's character, and it's a whole, really, like I said, an ensemble piece about this town, but really well done. The next one is a movie here called Wonder, and it was about a kid who has a facial deformity, and he's first, time he's going into school, and he kind of has to deal with the kids and the way people treat him in school, and he has to kind of deal with this, and it stars Owen Wilson and Julia Roberts, and it's as is the kid's parents, and it's just sort of like this thing about him going to school and just finding out how bad people can be sometimes. And it's just a really good movie, though. Really, one of those movies, though, probably the saddest movie on this list. Like, I really got teared up throughout the whole movie. The next one here I picked was the Disney Pixar film Coco, which, when it comes to Pixar, though, there's certain Pixar movies, I have to be honest, I don't really care for too much, like the Cars films and some of the other ones recently, but like Coco, though, that was one of those ones that to me lived on as a really amazing movie, like next to like WALL-E. WALL-E is one that I think is underrated, and I don't know, I really love that one. But Coco was this great story about this kid who goes to the he wants to play music, but his family's all shuns it in the family because of what the grandfather who died years back did, kind of abandoned the whole family. and he ends up wanting, stealing the grandfather's, guitar from his, sarcophagus, and then he ends up getting transported to the Day of the Dead, the land of the dead world, and he has to try and figure out how he's going to get back. The next one I picked was The Disaster Artist, and I picked 22 for the best ones, but I picked The Disaster Artist, which was the movie about the making of The Room and about all the kind of behind-the-scenes hijinks and problems with Tommy Wiseau, and James Franco's gotten some nominations for this and for the film itself, but he did an amazing job playing Tommy Wiseau, and I don't know, it's just a really, if you guys like movies about making movies, and if you guys liked Ed Wood, it's kind of in that same vibe as Ed Wood, which is probably one of my favorite movies, especially favorite movies about making films. The next one I picked was The Shape of Water, which was Guillermo del Toro's newest film. And it was this woman who works as a cleaning woman at this kind of facility where they do weird kind of testing and government kind of business, and they bring in this specimen, which is sort of like a creature from the Black Lagoon kind of fish man creature, and she kind of forms this relationship with him, and she sees how bad he's being mistreated by Michael Shannon's character, who's like the head of this operations there, so she kind of wants to figure out how she's going to get him out of there. And the last one I picked for the best movies was Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I know that movie's gotten some mixed opinions. I honestly really got into that movie. I thought that was a really well done sequel to the in the series, and can't wait to see where it goes next, because I don't know, the first three, though, of course, no one really likes those ones too much. There was some okay aspects of them, but the newest films have really been well made. Now these ones are going to be worth watching. I'm just going to go through these ones quick, though. The worth watching ones, and some of these ones, too, could almost be best movies, but they're just like a little bit below. The next one was John Wick 2, for the first one of worth watching. Spiderman Homecoming, which still I really loved, and it was almost could have been on the top ones, but the other two superhero ones I picked, I feel like were a little bit better. The next one I picked was Baby Driver. That's kind of gotten a little knocked down too. I think that was some people's favorite movie, but because of the stuff with Kevin Spacey, that kind of got knocked down a little bit. Like anything Kevin Spacey, you don't really, I don't know, he kind of put a sour note because of the things that he did. The other one that I picked was The Girl with the Gifts, and I feel like that movie kind of went under the radar. It was a zombie film, and it was all these zombie children and stuff. The next one I picked was Before I Fall, which was a movie that was about this girl who kept reliving the same day when she dies over and over again. I really like those kind of movies. And it was done as a drama. They also, Happy Death Day, too, was done that kind of way as well. The next one I picked was Autopsy of Jane Doe, and this was like a father and son performing this autopsy on this woman, and weird things start to happen that night. Next one was T2 Trainspotting, which was the follow-up to Trainspotting, which I think was like set 20 years later, I believe. But a really well-done follow-up, and cool to see the characters again. And then I picked The Big Sick, which was almost top movie, which I really liked about this man who's getting married, started dating this woman who was, wasn't, she was an Indian, and the family had a terrible, problem with him about this, and was, kind of disowning him and giving all these kind of problems. It was a true story. The next one I picked was the Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds movie, Life, and that was a pretty good science fiction movie. That was kind of better than the Alien movie, to be honest, I thought. And this one, a lot of people didn't like it. It was Ghost in the Shell, which I always liked Scarlett Johansson. I thought it was a pretty good futuristic movie, kind of turned, American version of Ghost in the Shell. Then I picked Blackcoats Daughter, which was a movie that I think kind of people didn't really see, and it was a pretty interesting one about this guy who was a writer, and this man came to his house and started staying with him, but he never would leave, and he was really weird stuff going on. Some interesting twists and stuff going on in that movie. The next one here I picked was The Book of Henry. So that's a movie that really people didn't like at all, but I liked the story of that, and I always liked Naomi Watts, and it was just a weird story that I kind of got into, the whole thing that was going on, and it was an interesting kind of film. The next one I picked was Valerian, the City of a Thousand Planets. Like I said, these are worth watching, so they're not perfect, but Valerian I thought was a cool science fiction movie. I liked Luke Benson's films, especially Fifth Element and Leon the Professional, and I thought this was a film very similar to a Fifth Element, almost like a Fifth Element unrelated sequel. And this one, a Halle Berry film, which finally came out, was called Kidnap, and that's one I liked as well. I feel like now too many people saw that about her son who was kidnapped, and it's kind of she's following the car the whole entire way, and these kidnappers are really crazy, weird people. Then I also picked Annabelle Creation, which was actually a really well done prequel to Annabelle, because Annabelle, I did not like the original Annabelle very much, so the prequel was actually better than the original one. Then I also picked Logan Lucky, which I always screw up and call it Lucky Logan, but it was a great heist movie. And then I picked Mother, which I really did like Mother. It's not perfect, but it was an interesting thing. And it's one of those movies, too, the more you think about it, the more interesting it gets as it goes along. Then I picked the Emma Stone movie, Battle of the Sexes, which was about, the tennis player, one of the most popular female tennis players in the 70s, and it was kind of about her with fighting with Steve Carell's character, who was kind of challenging her to this battle. It was kind of all this goofy hijinks that he was going through, trying to battle her and kind of drum up publicity. And then I picked Victoria and Abdul, which was the queen meeting this man from India, and kind of their friendship that they form. And of course I picked Happy Death Day, which was another film about a girl who was dying every day, getting killed by somebody, and she has to try and solve who the murderer is so she can live. And the last one I picked was Murder on the Orient Express, which was, they've made a lot of Murder on the Orient Express films, but I really thought it was actually well done. I liked all the cast in it. Johnny Depp was in it. Now, these ones here now, we're going to talk about the worst movies. And the first one I picked was Home Again. I did not like that Reese Witherspoon movie. I don't know. It was just like, it didn't work at all to me. And I don't know. It just really did not. You know me, too. I usually like everything. But these ones, I just didn't really get into. I also didn't like Song to Song very much. And I like Terrence Malick's movies. But that one, to me, just wasn't that interesting. Same with Smurfs, The Last Village. I don't know. That animation-wise, I usually like a lot of animated films. But that one did not do it for me. And then the Amy Schumer film, Snatched. That one, it's one of those ones, almost best, worst kind of film, but not very, I don't know. It was just, something about it was a little bit cringy, sort of. Same with Rough Night. It was a movie it was almost like, Scarlett Johansson seemed so out of place being in that movie, and it was sort of like a, kind of a clone almost of Very Bad Things, sort of kind of feel movie. And then I picked Inconceivable, which is a movie starring Nicolas Cage, and I did not like that one. And then, of course, the Emoji Movie, which nobody liked, and I tried to watch it myself, and I even agreed that I did not like that very much. And then this Kirsten Dunst movie that I don't know, it didn't do it for me, was Woodstock, and it was just like about her dealing with death and stuff, but it didn't work for me. It was one of the A24 movies that I did not care for. And then, of course, Flatliners, the Flatliners remake. I always like Ellen Page. I've watched pretty much all of her movies, but that one, I don't know. That just was, I feel like when it came to being like a reboot of the whole thing and doing it again, even the original was not a perfect movie, so this one I just did not get into it. I think the PG-13 too kind of hurt the movie a little bit. And then the other one, The Snowman, which was like a thriller movie about these murders and people were kind of being stuffed in these snowmen. And I don't know. I really liked Val Kilmer in it. He was only in it for a little bit. But that movie really, I don't know. And then Justice League. Honestly, I have to be honest, I didn't care for that. That did not really work for me too much. There was some really kind of poor CGI and the editing and everything about that one. I did not do it for me too much. And then this one, which I recently saw, Just Getting Started, set at an old folks retirement facility, and about these two guys kind of dueling it out for the same woman, and they're having all kinds of fights, and someone's trying to kill one of them. Everything was bad with the direction of that. Like the extras were kind of standing around really weird, and it seemed cheap. The editing seemed bad. The way it was filmed didn't seem very good. And the last one I picked was Father Figures, which really was a letdown to me because I was really hoping it was going to be really, really funny. It was kind of like you saw everything in the trailer, and kind of all the jokes were kind of given away. Now, these ones are the best, worst movies. And these are ones that I liked, but they were really bad, or not great, but they had fun aspects to them. And this one was Bye Bye Man, which a lot of people call the Pee Pee Poo Poo Man. And this is just a silly, ridiculous film about this guy. If you say his name, he kind of comes after you, and you become obsessed, saying Bye Bye Man, Bye Bye Man, and all this kind of... I like kind of things about people obsessed with things. And the other one I picked was Rings. And boy, did Johnny Galecki seem what was he doing in this movie? But I liked him in it. Sometimes he always reminds me, too, of Joaquin Phoenix in a strange way. I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but he always sort of reminds me a little bit, almost like his brother or something. But, I don't know, just like silly and like ridiculous and wasn't explained too well. Unforgettable was another one, the Katherine Heigl movie. She's been in a lot of movies I consider best worst movies, like that one when she was with her like killing people and stuff. I don't know. She's in sometimes things like that, but I did like it. But it was the best worst. The other one was Wish Upon, and like Sherilyn Fenn too with that long braid. And that was like, what with that long hair thing she was wearing? That was just a silly movie about this wishing box, and you know the wishes that Joey King's character wishes on this box, they come to life. I mean, they come and kill the people and stuff. I don't know. It's just a ridiculous one. The last one I picked was The Dark Tower, which I kind of liked, but it was definitely was ridiculously bad and not perfect or anything. I didn't read the original book, so I can't compare it, but I know I do know it was not a good movie, but I did have fun with it, even though it was bad. But anyway, though, guys, this is just my pick for the best and worst movies. You know, let me know below what your picks are and, you know, what you guys thought about my opinions and everything. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.